Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? All right, it's 9 o'clock. Let's get those cameras turned on. Let's see your bright and cheery faces. See, Jai's got his Arctic jacket on. Must be cold at his house. Yeah. A little cold and rainy this today, isn't it? So week 10, you guys excited? Get Christmas and winter break? You're not feeling well, so you're turning your camera off today, I guess so. Nobody wants to see somebody else sick. Especially since you're probably still in your PJs and your hair's a mess. Of course, everybody shows up in their PJs anyway. That's okay. All right. Give them a few more minutes for people to trickle in. Okay, let's get our cameras on. Get our smiley faces on. Look at all these people that don't have their cameras on. All right. All right. Shall we get started? Yeah, no, maybe. Let's see what do you got? 62 people. Where's everybody at today? So I got 20 more people that are taking the day off. How you feeling, Andalim?
I'm feeling good.
That's good. So everyone else staying healthy, staying away from everybody, trying to self-isolate if that's possible. I'm locked up in my room. I don't even let my family in. Besides being irritating. All right, let's wait about another minute or so more before we get started. Anybody have anything they want to ask before we get started? Anything about the final, the extra credit, which I'm going to go over in a little bit? All right. Let's see if Jared's ready. You ready, Jared? I think he's over there folding his clothes. Okay. Yes, the great thing about working from home, I got a load of laundry going right already this morning. Took out the trash, did my dishes, so my wife didn't yell at me. All right, let's get started. All right, so this is week 10. So this is your last week before we go into finals next week. And everybody's ready for finals, right? All right. So chapter 14, we're going to go over that today. We're going to review a little bit today and Wednesday and Friday for the final exam. The final exam is going to be Wednesday, December 16th at 8 a.m. It's going to be just like the midterm where you're going to go on to iLearn and do an essay, and I'll have the essay posted for you. Group projects are due on 12/8. High eval extra credit due the 9th, which is Wednesday. Wait, that's not right. I'm sorry. 12/18, not the 8th. So the group projects are on the 18th, not the 8th. So don't pay attention to that. And then Merry Christmas and Happy Winter Break for everybody.
For the extra credit, we just screenshot when we're done and it says submitted and send it to you?
Yeah. So somebody complained that they had to give me their answers on the extra credit, which I explained to them, no, you didn't need to do that. I don't want to know what you said. I just want to know that you did it. So the MIS extra credit, they're supposed to give me a list of everybody who participated. So I'm waiting for that. After class, I will email them and contact them and see what's going on with that, because I should have had it before now. So the iEval extra credit, so you can give me in the form like this, just cut and paste this little piece, or you can give me the whole thing, do a screenshot of it. Either way is fine. You don't have to give me your answers. I don't want your answers. I appreciate that, but it's, I'll find out one way or another, at the end, if you, whatever problems that you had or things that you liked or disliked. Okay. So you guys are also going to be evaluating each other in your groups for your group project. And yes, you will include that yourself in that evaluation. And if I get more than a third of your group has a negative review about someone, they will actually have a really bad effect on their final grade. For example, if your team score is 90 and 3, 4, 5 of you say, hey, this person did not participate at all, they will get a 0. Okay, so those of you who are not participating with your groups or are not communicating with your groups, I highly suggest you do that. Otherwise, you are going to get a 0 for the project, the group project. Okay, so this is what your evaluation is going to look like. This is everybody participated evenly. Everybody got 10% out of a group of 10. So your group participation is going to equal 100. So say, for example, Jeff didn't participate and he wasn't the team leader. He would get a 0. Everybody else would get 2 extra points. And Jeff would get 0%. And Jeff would get a 0 for the final group project. All right, any questions about that so far? So questions about how I'm going to grade the group project, how we're going to do evaluations on each other, and I'm going to post that on iLearn. So you'll submit it like an assignment. Yes, no, maybe? All right. So we're going on to chapter 14, and this is social entrepreneur or corporate social responsibility. Develop, implement practical innovation and sustainable solutions that allow activating the entrepreneurial potential of families to eliminate their multidimensional poverty and live with dignity. So it looks like we're having some problems with connectivity. A lot of people are going in and out. Okay. So a few years ago, I participated in the social entrepreneurs at UCR. Unlike many of the people on the panel there, I had been in business for many, many years. But I also didn't start the company as a social entrepreneur. I started the company to make money, and I mean, it's not totally selfish reasons, but I didn't want to work for somebody else. So I started my own company, as opposed to many of the other people on the panel who started their companies for a social cause. The gentleman sitting right next to me, Andy, he started a t-shirt company to help the radioactive victims in Japan. So, you know, he actually had something in mind. The girl in the middle there, she started her jewelry company to help charities and other events that she wanted to sponsor. And likewise with the other gentleman at the end there, they all did the same thing. For myself, I didn't actually start the company to do that, but as things developed and my company matured, I became involved with City of Hope and some other charities and organizations that would help the community and other things. So you don't actually have to start a company in order to do that, to be a social entrepreneur. You can actually do it later after you develop the company. So any questions about that? Okay, social entrepreneur, the definition from your book. So basically, your book talked about Martin Burt, and what he did is he took agricultural, he's from Latin America. He took the agricultural business and became an entrepreneur, and how to teach people to grow their own food, sell their own food, and become entrepreneurs in South America. Okay. So the types of social entrepreneurs, we have social briocular, which is a French term, combines existing resources of focused value creation. A social constructor develops new models, products or service, and social engineers aggregate for change, design more effective social systems. And I'll give you examples of all of those as we go along. And I took this from your book, so this is actually in your book. So economic value increases income, wealth, or profit. Social value increases in well-being in non-economical areas, so, for example, literacy, health and sickness, housing, and shared value when creating economic value also creates social value. So many of these things you'll see the housing. There's many different community programs that do that in many different cities all over the United States. Along with health and sickness, there's all different kinds of programs, and companies started up just solely for that. Okay. So the three types of values: economic value fails to enhance social value. The crisis over fast food and soda and creates diabetes. Creating social value destroys economic value. Housing projects that depress real estate values are educational programs that fail to produce their own outcomes, but also leave students unprepared for jobs. So we've talked a little bit about how UCR is a failed educational institution as far as supply and demand, and the government putting money into the programs to keep it alive and running. So, and that's one way that creating social value destroys economic value. Situation where shared value might actually exist. Cisco systems training academies that train low-income individuals to become Cisco certified engineers. So you have companies for their own benefit and also for the benefit of for society, create a program, a company that actually helps individuals that help them. So we have the three here: shared value, the simultaneous creation of economic value for the business and social for the larger community. Economic value, the creation of income, wealth, and other economic outcomes for individuals and organizations. And social value, and these are all taken from your textbook, are all in your book for review. Implements in the non-economic elements of individual lives and community well-being. Okay. So sustainable stakeholder advantage and value net are both definitions taken from your book that you need to know. So value net, a model of value creation that describes how an organization interacts with others and environment to create value. Okay. Value net consists of 4 elements: customers, suppliers, competitors, and complementers. Okay, so make sure you know value net. Strategy and social value organization, just another model for you to look at. So the customer, the complementer, the supplier, the competitor, all how they interchange with the organization. Okay, so be aware of that. Complementer, an individual, group, or organization that makes customers value the organization's output more because of its product or service. So, for example, Microsoft and Intel, they work together as complementers, but we can do this also in the social part of the entrepreneurship. Okay, so corporate social responsibilities, we've gone over that. We talked about DOD before, the stakeholder model. And this is the firm social obligations pyramid. So economic responsibility should be the base of the pyramid. Legal and social responsibilities, ethical responsibilities, and philanthropical responsibilities. Okay. Questions so far? Am I totally boring you guys? I know Anna Lieb looks just totally bored out of her mind. All right. So a firm's social responsibilities starts with the economic responsibility to generate economic profits, so they can put that back into the company and to the community. Legal responsibility, a firm obligation to abide the written and codified laws of counties in which the countries and counties and states in which they operate, and even cities down to cities and counties have different types of rules, legal obligations. So we've got people trickling in. Okay. Ethical responsibilities, a firm's obligation to abide by the unwritten ethical standards, norms, values, and communities in which it operates. So not only are they need to have an ethical responsibility to the laws of the land, the country, but the state, the community, and even the smallest portion of that. Okay, so a philanthropical responsibility, a firm's obligation to contribute to the enhancement of the community in which it operates. So planting trees, building parks, all of those kind of things are considered philanthropical responsibilities. So not every firm has to do that. My company never built a park for anybody. We did do a lot of charitable work for the communities and stuff like that in which we are a part of. But there's a certain extent to what a corporation can do and a corporate can't do as far as funding goes. All right. So Coke and Pepsi are social responsibility, the two biggest soft drink makers in the world. What are their economic responsibilities? To provide good jobs for their employees, timely payments to suppliers, profits for shareholders. So yes, they are supposed to make profits for their shareholders. Yes, they are supposed to pay their suppliers on time. Yes, they're supposed to take care of their employees. Many companies don't, many companies do. So CRS, which is corporate social responsibilities, internal areas of the responsibility, market responsibility, legal compliance, middle areas, other responsibility, values, environmental standards, supply chain, and external are, sponsoring social activities, contributions, corporate giving. We go do with the City of Hope every year. We help in their Christmas fundraiser that they do every year. We donate lots of stuff and our time and our labor for that. We've been doing it for many, many years. What are the legal responsibilities to comply with all health and safety regulations, including not polluting the water, disposing of waste properly? You had a question? Okay. Dispose and to comply with all labor laws. Some cities have passed legislation prohibiting sales in schools, soda inside schools. I think that's pretty much the norm now. If you're a teenager and going to high school, you really can't find a soda in a vending machine on campus. Never was that big of an issue when we were growing up, but it has become now. Coke and Pepsi have seen the light of what things are going to be. So that's why they've heavily invested in selling water and other alternative drinks that are not high sugar drinks, just regular water, low calorie, low sugar or no sugar, other type of flavored drinks. Okay. So they made their ethical responsibilities. They made a pledge to take out all of these sales of their sodas in schools. Of course, on UCR campus, you can get a Pepsi everywhere. Can't get a Coke, but you can get a Pepsi. That's because Pepsi won the contract. All right. So 2017 Coca-Cola donations, when combined with the foundation's charitable grants, equaled $138 million. So just in 1 year, they spent $138 million, but that's only equivalent to 1.6 of the company's operating income. Okay. PepsiCo Foundation expands commitment to the water in India and spent $8 million just on that project alone to help clean up all the waste in plastic and containers that wash up on the rivers and the oceans and everything. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that video where there's a big place, where all the currents come together. There's this big, huge 2-mile long plastic island just full of waste that's in the middle of the ocean. Look it up sometime. It's really kind of interesting how that all came there. Okay, so corporate social responsibility. What pressures do you see on companies to behave socially in responsible ways? So this is where you participate. What do you think are some of the social responsibilities being put on some of these large corporations? Go ahead. Diet Coke. Jacqueline, what do you got for me? You're next, Nicholas. Go ahead, Nicholas.
Oh, I think like a big one nowadays is like privacy. Since like a lot of companies are like expected to protect our information.
You mean that thing that nobody's doing that everybody's selling?
That's not expected, right? Not like.
Well, with my generation, it's a little bit more, we're more upset about it than you guys. I think you guys are kind of like, oh, well, if I want to use this app, I'm just going to say yes and agree to everything. And you don't even read what everything is, right? It's like when one of these apps that doesn't even use your pictures wants to access your pictures in your phone or access all the information in your phone, and want to access your maps, where you're going, what you're doing. And that app has absolutely nothing to do with that. I mean, what do you think they're going to do with that information that you just allowed them to access in your phone? They're going to sell it. My generation has a really big problem with that. Your generation, not so much. You're kind of grown up with that type of invasion of privacy, and you're kind of used to it. My teenage sons, I took their door off the hinges one time to punish them, and that was like the worst thing I could do in the world. It's like, how can you take away my privacy, this and that, and it's like, well, if If you can behave responsibly, you get your door back. Mariville, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, so for many years, there have been, especially with all these companies outsourcing in different countries, I feel like some pressures that we see currently and we've seen for years is just labor laws, or just these companies, for example, like Nike, that they had to implement something in order for them to look more socially responsible, after they got, like, oh, they're having, and they're still kids, creating a lot of products till this day. However, at least some companies have implemented, like, okay, the structure or the infrastructure that we're utilizing is a little bit more stable, or we just take care of our employees a lot better, even though there are 8-year-olds, 5-year-olds working within the company, right? So it's not right, but at least they're doing something to make it seem a little bit better.
Yeah. Even so, you have in some of these third world countries, that if that 8-year-old doesn't go to work, his family starves. Him and his sisters and brothers are all working 8, 10, 12, 15-hour days so they can make $1, and so they bring $3, $4 home a day, and they can barely eat off of that, so that's, unfortunately, that's the way the reality is in some of those countries. But I agree totally that yes, some of these large companies should take a little bit more responsibility, social responsibility in those countries. The reason they are in those countries is because the prevailing wage is that what it is. Otherwise they would be making the products here in the United States, or they would be making them, in the UK or other countries that they have high sales in. They would make the products there. But no, it's not. And, there's advantage, disadvantage, and yes, they should be more socially responsible. I agree totally. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And it's going to take a lot of people to change that. Who else wants to dive right in? So they're really not putting too much pressure on companies in other countries, are they? Other than changing some laws and minimum wage laws and other things like that, they're really safety laws. Those type of factories are not as unsafe as they used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago. They are a little bit safer. They have fire exits in case there's a fire. They have certain things. They're not in a brick building that's going to crumble. Every time there's an earthquake. So those are some of the good things that they're doing. So Chase, for example, was charged with 2 felony violations of Banks Secrecy Act in connection with the relationship with Bernie Madoff. I don't know if you guys remember Bernie Madoff made off with billions of dollars of people's money, and they all lost their money. Even large corporations invested in Bernie Madoff. And so they got felony violations. So you give a felony violation to a corporation, what does that mean? Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. The person responsible for doing this didn't get really more than a slap on the hand and a fine. So they really didn't do anything. Walmart has been accused of discrimination and has won many things about discrimination. Yes, we do see a lot more pressure on the companies in the United States. That's because we have so many laws. Many times we enforce them. Many times we don't enforce them. There's a lot of things going on. For example, a lot of these banking things that went on. Those CEOs could have been in jail for their entire lifetime, but none of them did. They could enforce the laws much more strictly, but they choose not to. And even in foreign countries, it's even less likely. So as we get back to Walmart, human rights violations, working not getting paid for overtime, other stuff that they've done. And the number one reason is medical social welfare recipients. Walmart does not offer a healthcare plan for part-time employees. And if they do, it's so expensive that the employees can't afford it. So they don't make enough money to where they can actually afford healthcare. So these states are having to pick up gap in between what they make at Walmart and their health benefits. So basically, they're on welfare. They're working part-time. They have a job. They can't make a living, and they're basically welfare recipients. And Walmart is very guilty of doing that. Blackfish. It was a documentary that they did about SeaWorld. Not too many people know about this, but because of it, they stopped doing all of having the trainers with the in the tank with the whales. Monsanto. I don't know if you guys heard about Monsanto, all the stuff that they've done with the GMO crops, how they're destroying the organic crops, and then also spraying chemicals on Monsanto chemicals on wheat to get it to dry faster. They are causing cancer. So there's many things that these guys have done, and there's not too much pressure, and even the laws are kind of not even specifically made to deal with a lot of this stuff. So that's where social responsibility comes in into attack. Okay, any questions so far? No, we're good. All right. So social entrepreneurship, the use of innovative organizations and businesses models to create social value. For example, what Andy did in the panel, for example. Institutional change, when entrepreneurs strive to change the way people and groups think about problems, they work to create or change social institutions, from government policy to social values norms. A lot of examples of this would be for what's happening in China right now, or is not happening. Okay. Social briochlier, a French word that means creating something by combining diverse and different elements into a new setting. Martin Burt, for example, combined the traditional Paraguayan curriculum with proven agricultural educational techniques and supplementing these with knowledge about how to train entrepreneurs from his junior achievement program. So he took the knowledge and the education along with a program that they implemented to help these junior achiever learn how to grow crops, learn how to cultivate them, and learn how to sell them. Okay. Social engineer is entrepreneur organization working to create larger institutions, changes to succeed when they led by social engineering. Back in the 80s, when I was a young college student, Philip Jonas, an advertising executive, founded the Partnership for Drug-Free America. So they used to have this commercial with a frying pan. They stuck an egg in it, and they said, "This is your brain." And then they put an egg on it, and as it fried up in the pan, they said, "This is your brain on drugs." So which kind of resonated with a lot of people, and to me, to this day, I still remember that. So the combat against drug use didn't really work. Everybody was doing drugs. The 80s seemed to be all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So it really didn't work about the drug campaign, but it made people more aware of what was going on. So in a sense, it kind of did work. It made them aware. Didn't stop us from taking drugs. We all did and had some fun times in the 80s. All right, so any question about chapter 14? That's pretty much it. No? Yes, maybe? So everybody knows what a social entrepreneur is? All right. So on with the review. So forward and backward integration. Remember we talked about downstream and upstream, what it meant. So the raw materials is the forward downstream, and the after sales and service is backwards upstream. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. The raw materials is the drilling and the refining, and then the after sales. All right. So remember we talked about the oil industry value chain way back in chapter 7. And this is kind of how they start off with the raw materials, even exploration is that all the way up to selling the different types of products made from the gas or the oil that they was pulled out of the ground. Okay. So remember the 3 reasons for vertical integrations: capabilities, coordination, and control. Fun stuff, right? Remember, we talked about transaction specific asset is an asset made specifically for one particular reason. Once you make an oil pipeline, you're really not going to use it for anything else. You're not going to move Coca-Cola through it. You're not going to move water through it. All you're going to move through it is oil. And once you're done with it, that's it. It's pretty much useless. Okay, and then we talked about making versus buying. So you make it, it costs you 98 cents. You buy it, it costs you $1 or $1.01. It's still not going to be worth making it because you're not saving enough in order to compensate for everything else that you have to give in. Okay, so in real life, for example, if you're going to do switching costs to a new vendor or decide if you're going to buy or make something, you need to save about 25% in order to make it worth it. All the other things that you need to consider into switching costs and all that other good stuff. Depending on the product, it can go as low as 15%, but a general rule is 25%. If you don't have to put a lot of costs or a lot of money or anything into it, you can get away with 15%, but the general rule of thumb is 25%. Dangers of vertical integration, loss of flexibility. This is important, especially in major technological or manufacturing changes. So for example, Nike chooses to outsource the product of its shoes because of the ability to switch suppliers. Depends on which supplier is the lowest cost at the moment. As Marivelle said, we talked about Nike's ethics about making shoes in different countries and how they treat their employees. They've gotten better about that because of the social change here in the United States, people demanding that companies like Nike and some of these other manufacturers change. Okay, so the dangers of outsourcing is you lose control, loss of capabilities, loss of intellectual property. So for example, one of the things that China is being accused of is stealing intellectual properties when they manufacture a product. Caterpillar had at one point had China manufacturing some of its products. China, as Caterpillar accused them of, they said that they stole some of their designs and they built their own heavy equipment machinery, so which is an ongoing legal dispute. Strategic alliances, we talked about Disney and the Oriental Land Company, how Disney didn't have the resources or the capabilities to open up a park in Japan, but Oriental Land Company did have all the resources. They had everything except for the product. So that's how they combined to make a strategic alliance in order to create a Disneyland in Japan. Okay, so whether to choose a strategic alliance is the difference of make, buy, or create an alliance. Make, no need to ally or buy. If Disney could have built a Disneyland in China and Japan, they wouldn't have had to do any of this alliance. They could have just went and bought the land, hired the people, and then just built the park, but they couldn't. Okay, buy, no need to make or ally. Ally can't make or buy. All right, ways to create value in alliances: combine unique resources, pool similar resources, create new alliance-specific resources, lower transaction costs. Okay, and then we're going to stop here for today. We're going to do the holdup and misrepresentation. When you're in an alliance, holdup is when one partner tries to exploit the alliance. Specific investments made by another partner, and misrepresentation when you say you can do something and you actually can't, or you promise something and you can't deliver. All right, so Wednesday we're going to finish going up over some of these. Friday I'm going to be a little bit more specific